Good evening and welcome to the September 18, 2024 regular meeting of the Holland City Council. I am Mayor Nathan Box and I'm calling the meeting to order. Brenda, would you please call the roll?
Okay, Byrd. Freeman. Raymond.
Here.
Corbin.
Here.
Soul. Rowan.
Present.
Shea.
Here.
Schulteis.
Present.
Mayor Box.
Present.
We do have a quorum.
Wonderful, thank you. We're going to begin this evening's meeting as we have for many years, first with an opening prayer this evening by our city manager, Keith Van Beek, followed immediately by the Pledge of Allegiance, and we would invite you to join us.
Please join me in prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for the gifts that you have given to us individually and corporately as a community. Thank you for the responsibility that you've instilled upon employees, upon our elected leaders, and we ask for your continued presence, guidance, and safety for employees, especially as they are out in the community doing work and serving citizens. It's in your name we pray, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And as a point of order, I'd like to make note that Councilmember Byrd has joined us. Next item on our agenda are our consent agenda items. These are items that are considered to be fairly routine and have been reviewed by council as part of our council packet, and they will be enacted in one motion unless a member of the public or a member of council asks to have an item removed from the consent agenda and placed in its regular order on the regular agenda. But before we ask that question, Brenda, would you please review the consent agenda for us?
Okay. 4A, excuse the absences of council members Vreeman and Soul. 4B, approve the minutes of the September 4, 2024 regular meeting. 4C, receive for information a tax abatement PA 198 for ATC drivetrain, 1285 Waverly Road, Units 1 and 2. 4D, receive for information a tax abatement PA 198 Uniform Color Company, 942 Brooks Avenue. 4E, a grant of utility easements for the Holland City Fiber Project. 4F, approve electric distribution hybrid bucket truck purchases. 4G, the amended Bell River project contracts. 4H, accept as information the fiscal year 2024 annual report. 4I, approval of the Michigan Department of Transportation trunk line maintenance agreement. 4J, accept a sidewalk easement from Fence Consultants of West Michigan for property at 1176 Lincoln Avenue. 4K, approval of 8th Street Marketplace awning repair. 4L, accept a Holland Area Convention and Visitors Bureau marketing grant. 4M, accept the Institute for Responsive Government grant. 4N, approval of the replacement purchase of services weapons. 4O, schedule a public hearing of necessity for October 2, 2024 for the Downtown Principal Shopping District Assessment. 4P, schedule a public hearing of necessity for October 2, 2024 for the Downtown Parking Operations and Maintenance Assessment. And for Q, schedule a public hearing of necessity for October 2, 2024 for the downtown snowmelt operation and maintenance assessment. For R, approval of chiller repair at the police services building.
Great, thank you, Brenda. Is there any member of the public that would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda? Seeing none. Any member of council that would like to have an item removed from consent and placed on the regular agenda? Seeing none there either. What is the pleasure of council in regard to the consent agenda?
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
It is moved by Raymond. Is there support? Support by Rowan. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Brenda, would you please call the roll?
Byrd.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Corbin. Rowan.
Yes.
Shea.
Yes.
Schultheis,
Yes.
Mayor Box?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Under the Open Meetings Act of the State of Michigan, we provide the opportunity for the public to be able to address council at our regular meetings as well as our study sessions and frankly at every one of our board, committee, and commission meetings. We do have guidelines that we ask you to follow. First is that your time is limited to 5 minutes. There are 3 lights on the dais in front of us. One is green, one is yellow, one is red. The green light means you're doing well on time. The yellow light means that you have 1 minute left, and the red light means that your time has expired, and we are strict about that. We ask that you speak just one time during the council meeting. You may speak on any subject that you wish, but also please note this is one-way communication. It's an opportunity for you to be able to address council about any subject matter that you think is important, but we don't engage in discussion nor do we answer questions at this time. But if there's a direct question, that staff may be able to circle back and answer that question for you at some point after the meeting. We do ask that you approach the podium and state your name and the municipality in which you live so that we know whether you're a resident of the city of Holland or not. Having said that, is there anyone here who would like to address council at this time? If so, please come forward. And would you please state your name and municipality for the record?
Where your lights at? You said there was...
Right in front of me here, right on the dais.
Got you. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Hi, my name is Theodore Robert. I live at 12199 North Meadow Springs Drive, Holland, Michigan. Okay. And it's good to meet you all. I've never met you all, but thank you. And I'm glad you were here, City Manager, because what I want to talk about is pertaining to your office as well. Members of the council, mayor, city manager, I come to you because this is a matter, I believe, of public safety. It's also a matter of behavior, both for appointed city officials as well as those who are hired, specifically the public morale and the general welfare. And so, excuse me, about a month ago, I was issued a citation by the Holland Police Department. And I am in the midst of appealing that citation. But nevertheless, there are certain things that had occurred during that encounter with the police department. And one of the things was that the officers that stopped me, they were on duty but in plain clothes. But nevertheless, their encounter with me, they actually committed an actual criminal act. So I actually filed a complaint against them. And there was actually video footage of that. But what I want to talk to you about is this. I recently had a meeting with one of the sergeants of the Holland Police Department, Mr. Santiago, I believe. I can't pronounce his last name, but that was his first name. And during that conversation, he said something to me that was very, very concerning. And again, this is why I say this is really for public morale. In that conversation, he wasn't aware that I was a prior police officer. A lot of the things that he said, he was not being truthful about. And I knew he wasn't being truthful because I was a prior police officer for 12 years. And one of the things that I brought up to his attention, I asked him, I said, well, I asked him, what is the protocols and what is the processes for us as citizens of this community, taxpaying citizens, when we witness our sworn police officers that are in full uniform driving police vehicles, okay, on duty, and they commit the same infractions that we are given citations for. And to make a long, and I have the recording of that meeting if anyone wants to hear that. And his response was, well, and he did everything he could to defend his officers, and I understand that. But nevertheless, what he was saying is that instead of them getting or being treated the same way we are, they just get a talking to. So we as citizens of this community, if we commit a civil infraction, if we don't turn our signal on, we drive through a stop sign, whatever the case may be, they will stop us, cite us, and issue us a ticket. We will then have to pay fines and possibly get points on our license. But according to the Holland Police Department, the police officers themselves, they get a talking to. They are not treated the same way as the taxpaying citizens of this community are treated. They get a talking to, and I asked them, well, why? If they break, there's nothing in our municipal code or even the state statutes that says that officers cannot be cited. The only time that they can violate, the traffic laws of the state or even the city ordinance is during an emergency or something like that. But if not, they have to be held to the same standards that we are held. But according to our police department, no. They are above the law, and they can do whatever they want. And if they are, and I told them, I said, well, I have video footage of our officers committing these civil infractions. And I said, what is the process of making sure that they are held to the same standards that we are? So I say that to you, Mr. City Manager, because this is an issue with our police department. They really believe that they are held to a higher standard and that they can, they basically are above the law. So I say that is, what do we do in that situation where we make sure that they are given citations just like we are as citizens of this community? I'm almost out of time. So that's what I wanted to bring to your attention, council members and city manager. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? And would you please state your name and municipality for the record?
Absolutely. My name is Orlando Estrada. I live in Ward 2, and Lynn is my awesome neighbor. And Mr. Mayor, I want to say I appreciate you coming out to the dedication of the Immigrant Statue at Collin Park, along with Devin Shea. Greatly appreciate that. I know everybody's mind's probably made up, but I always feel like there's always time to have the engagement in the conversation. As most of you may know, I'm running for County Commissioner of District 3, which oversees the city of Holland. And I kind of wish it was a nonpartisan race, but it has to be a partisan race. One thing that I love about our town is everybody has a say at the table if people like it or not. And we can have those discussions about how we can improve our community. One thing I've been noticing when I go to the door, people are talking about things like people are becoming like the hate that they fight. And I kind of notice that personally is that when I get really supercharged about something I want to beat this, but then I start becoming the thing that I want to stop. And one thing I've been learning when I was talking to one of my pastor friends is forgiveness is a thing that people actually have to start doing. People are always bringing up things in the past, and I've been guilty of that too, doing accusations. But one reason why I'm actually running is I have some serious conversations like I didn't plan it. I don't know what that gentleman is back there, but false accusations do happen. And if you don't have a camera, it's going to be someone's word against theirs. I know people, such as myself, that have been falsely accused. And fortunately, because I recorded police interaction, I was able to show that, well, I was telling the truth and he wasn't. But that's not really why I'm here today. I just want to let people know that regardless of the outcome of the election, I still want to work with anybody who wants to work with me. And I appreciate Devin being very approachable. I think that's really kind of him because he doesn't have to do that. He can just do photos, but I can tell he really does care about people. And it is my fault if I do not actually call you people to sit down and have an appointment about things that I want to do about the community, because anybody can come up here and say, I don't like what you're doing, I don't like what you're doing. It's really easy. And like you said, Mr. Mayor, it's very true. You guys can't respond. I've been at the Board of County Commissioners, speaking my piece about certain things, and I notice that people like to play the game of guilty by association. Like, for example, I'm not OI, I'm OE. I do talk to people that I agree with a lot and disagree a lot. And I've been having a falling out with people that I thought were on my team. So I'm just saying that being just, a person that lives here in Holland all his life is I could do a better job communicating with people. And I hope that maybe you guys will at some point, if you see me out there, might want to say hi, have coffee or whatever. But from what I hear at the doors, there's a lot of hurting people that do not know about services that are, around. And I try to make note. I'm going to give you a quick example. If you go downtown to 58th Street District Court, there's a public defender's office, but it doesn't say the hours for the city of Holland. It says to go to Grand Haven or Fillmore. But fortunately, we have a really cool deputy that was there that said, hey, the public defender's office is actually at the DHS building. I didn't know that, and I've been here all my life. So there's just little things that can be fixed. This is not me saying that you guys got to do this or it's somebody's fault. It's just basically bringing up the attention that something needs to take place. But other than that, I'm going to go down to the hotel over here and get me a box on the rocks. I want to say that tastes really good. So with that being said, my name is Orlando Estrada. To learn more, votefororlando.com, numeric 4. I got a phone number on there. And you guys can even complain to me because we all need an event that all of us who actually care, spend time and money, we still get yelled at because it just never seems to be good enough. But sometimes we come together and maybe it is good enough for some people. So with that being said, thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? And would you please state your name and municipality for the record?
Ann Henriksen, Zealand. Good evening, Council. The International Festival was wonderful, and we applaud Esther Fafliski and her team for all they do to make this happen. The atmosphere was filled with joy and caring for one another. Wow, that is the spirit of Holland. Keep it in mind as I continue reading. After last council meeting, a few questions were asked concerning our appeal for this Saturday's Shine the Light in Holland worship concert hosted by the City Hill Church, Ebenezer Assembly of God, and National April Faith Action Committee. This is a bilingual event for the community. It was suggested by members of council per the Holland Park Bandshell policy requiring a city sponsorship to call the Human Relations Commissions because they are in charge of the DEI ordinance and any reported assisted needed. In talking to Esther Fafliski concerning the Human Relations Commissions, she's a friend of mine, she was not sure and wanted to talk to her boss, Keith Verbeek, the city manager. She wanted me to talk to him. It was a robust conversation this afternoon. Mr. Verbeek equated the Holland Park bandshell to the public use of the City Hall conference rooms. The denying a stage and amplifying bandshell structure is no comparison and does not substantiate an argument. The City Hall rooms are used for government purposes. The bandshell is for and from the taxpayers of Holland. They enjoy the many concerts of variety of performers throughout the summer. With the appropriate guidelines set in place, the obviously predominant faith community should have a partnership with the city to allow worship in the bandshell when it's not in use. Common sense. I spoke with the prior mayors, and they said the policy was in place when they took office. They did not know the source or the reasons. I suspect this goes back to 1980s at least, so it is logical that the cause is possibly the Lemon Law of 1971. Separation of church and state. The ACLU initiated this interpretation to remove all religious symbols out of public spaces. Well, now, 2021, the Lemon Law is null and void. 2022, the Holland Park bandshell was denied to the Wave Church plant in Intersection Church and 633 Ministries. The reason was separation of church and state. Oops, that statement should have been obsolete. Now it's simply policy. The bandshell is to be used only if an organization has a partnership or standing contract with a city. So why cannot the bandshell be used by established ministries of faith in Holland, as your ordinance describes, for use for religious conduct? I asked Mr. Verbeek to put his rationale in writing an email of the denial explanation. He refused. He also said I'm not an applicant, so my email request is denied. I am the affiliation of 3 hosts mentioned in the event. I appeal to you all on behalf of the faith-based ministries of Holland, out of courtesy and respect for all they do for Holland, that you as the government recognize them by adding a sponsorship partnership with the churches to be the evidence of accommodations in your DEI ordinance. As Esther Fafliski has poured herself into the international festival all these years, and what has been the result? A coming together as this community. I believe your move for this policy would do the same for our churches and for the people of Holland. Please do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? And would you please state your name and municipality for the record?
Yes, Jim Story, City of Holland, 29th year. Giving you the Allegan County report, as I am the county commissioner representing the city. Last week, the County Board of Commissioners approved the opioid settlement grant from the result of the litigation from against manufacturers and distributors and retailers on the distribution of opioid. Allegan County over 16 years will receive $2.8 million. Our initial approval was $176,000 to go to in each of the next 2 years to On Point, which is our community mental health agency for both prevention and treatment of those who have been impacted by it. A small portion of that will also go to our Sheriff's Department for setting up treatment operations inside our county jail. Our 123net contractor who is installing 11,000 or installing service for 11,000 of our residents who do not have high-speed fiber access is about 30% complete. Actually doing quite well given the unseasonably warm weather that we've had throughout this month. We, at the end of the day, we will have about 1,000 miles of fiber optic cable installed in the county. On October 10th, we are hosting an open house for our newly rehabilitated county services building, which was designed to house our treasurer's office, our county register of deeds office, our drain commissioner's offices, and also our equalization department. And that is now essentially done. There's some fit and finish things that are going on. And already the register of deeds has moved from downtown Allegan out there for their operation. We expect the drain commissioner will open up on early January with their operation. Still to be determined is when the treasurer will occupy her offices out there. Related to that, we do have a court hearing before Judge Curtis Bell in Kalamazoo County Circuit Court over a suit challenging whether we had the authority to do this when we were renovating the courthouse. And the external, by the way, speaking of the courthouse, the external work of expansion is largely done, and now we will be moving inside to rehabilitate the interior. Earlier this week, I believe it was Monday or maybe it was Friday, Governor Whitmer declared September General Aviation Appreciation Month. And of course, since West Michigan Regional Airport is a general aviation airport, it's time to highlight the excellent facility that is for us. And related to that, tomorrow from 4 to 7 at Paget Field, which is the other major general aviation airport in Allegan County, our County Emergency Services Director, working with the Michigan State Police, has organized a prepare fair, inviting residents to come by and see certain precautions that they can take to prepare for any kind of natural or otherwise emergency. And as an added attraction, both the state police and the Army National Guard will have their helicopters on site for those who wish to take a look at those two fine pieces of aircraft. With that, that concludes my report, and I thank you for the time and wish you a good evening.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? Seeing none, I will close the public comment period. Next item on the agenda, special presentations and recognitions from the mayor or council or the city manager. And I do have two proclamations this evening. The first is in regard to Hispanic Heritage Month. Whereas The City of Holland joins other communities across the nation in honoring the many ways the Hispanic community contributes to our common goals in working together toward a stronger and inclusive future and a more prosperous America for all. And whereas we pause to celebrate National Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15 until October 15, 2024, the 2024 theme for Hispanic Heritage Month is Pioneers of Change, Shaping the Future Together. And whereas the Hispanic Latino community in the City of Holland makes up approximately 24%, or approximately 8,255 of our population of 34,540, many came for agricultural work and stayed in the community for greater economic stability to provide a better future for their families. Whereas we recognize the contributions of Hispanics, Latinos, and those Americans whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. And whereas we benefit from the many contributions of Hispanic healthcare professionals, educators, agricultural workers, community leaders, factory workers, pastors, business owners, public service workers, service industry personnel, volunteers, and private residents. And whereas the heart and soul of the Hispanic community rests in their devotion to faith, family, and resilience to withstand hardship. In that same vein, we recognize the great strength of current and future Hispanic youth and the contributions they will make in the future of our community. And whereas we invite residents to participate in Hispanic Heritage Month programming throughout the community. So now, therefore, I, Nathan Box, the mayor of the City of Holland, Michigan, and members of the Holland City Council, do hereby proclaim September 15 until October 15, 2024, Hispanic Heritage Month. And we encourage our residents to share in this annual tribute by learning and celebrating the generations of Hispanic and Latin Americans who have influenced and enriched our community. Given under my hand and the seal of the City of Holland, this 18th day of September 2024, Mayor Nathan Box. And I have a second proclamation this evening, and we actually do have some folks here to accept this one. And so once I'm completed reading it, I'll come around and we'll do a handshake, and I'll make sure that you guys actually get the original of the proclamation as well. And it is in regard to National Good Neighbor Day. Whereas in 1978, United States President Jimmy Carter, by proclamation, established National Good Neighbor Day, eventually set to occur on September 28 each year, a day set aside to observe the importance of neighboring, neighborhoods, and community. And whereas research shows that neighborhoods are a vital factor in creating safe, healthy, inclusive, and flourishing communities. And whereas, as a society, we have witnessed an alarming rise in loneliness and isolation, with troubling impacts on the physical and mental health, life expectancy, and well-being of individuals within all communities. And whereas it has been established that the development of more socially cohesive and inclusive neighborhoods positively impacts the physical and mental health, life expectancy, and overall well-being of individuals. And whereas neighborhoods and cities are healthier, their economies are stronger, and their social problems more limited and manageable when people who live in proximity to one another experience a shared sense of belonging and connectedness. And whereas it has been demonstrated that communities with strong neighbor-to-neighbor connections show greater civic pride and engagement and more effective crime prevention, disaster response, and economic resilience. And whereas the City of Holland is fortunate to benefit from the efforts of a countless number of Holland residents who display neighborliness every day on their blocks, within their apartment buildings, and in their neighborhoods. And whereas the City of Holland is also fortunate to benefit from the efforts of numerous groups and organizations working intently to build stronger and more connected neighborhoods, including Heights of Hope, 360, West Core Neighbors, Washington School Neighbors, and Community Works. Now, therefore, I, Nathan Box, Mayor of the City of Holland, Michigan, and members of the Holland City Council do hereby proclaim September 28, 2024 as National Good Neighbor Day in the City of Holland, and I urge all citizens to celebrate National Good Neighbor Day by making a genuine and renewed effort to support the flourishing of your neighborhood, not just on September 28, but throughout the year. Given under my hand and the seal of the City of Holland, this 18th of September, 2024, Mayor Nathan Box. And we do have Jake Norris here and representatives from 360, one of our neighborhood connector groups who were named this year. I want to make sure I get this right, Jake. The top neighborhood connector group in the country, correct?
Neighborhood of the year.
Neighborhood of the Year in the United States. That is an incredible honor, and they have been doing so many wonderful things, 360 and our neighborhood connector groups, but we wanted to make sure that we highlighted 360 tonight as part of National Good Neighbor Day. Congratulations on that, and congratulations on Good Neighbor Day. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Let's get the ceremonial picture with the handshake. And,
Got it. Thank you.
excellent. Congratulations, good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
All right, next item on the agenda, item number 7, special order of the day, the review and approval of the Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, the CAPER, for the 2023-2024 CDBG, which stands for Community Development Block Grant Program Year. Mr. Van Beek.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I wish we were always as good as sometimes seem to fall in place, but it seems unbelievably appropriate that just after that recognition and proclamation that Mark Cornelis is going to come up and talk about this annual report that we submit not only to the federal government, but more importantly, present that information to you and in this hearing. And really, it's appropriate that we're talking about this because there's so much of the programming and the funds that we get for specific purposes that go hand in hand with the work that we do with the Neighborhood Connector program. And then I'm just going to say go hand in hand with our staff member here, Mark Cornelis, that does a fantastic job and has great skills and passion for neighborhoods in the community. So I wish I was good enough that I set it up this way. Maybe Mark was, and he just, but Mark, we're happy to have you here present tonight, and thanks for what you do.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, so in some sense, this is a pretty straightforward item on your agenda. It's just approval of a plan that I will submit later this week to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. But because these are federal funds and other related things, it does require a public hearing and a little bit more attention. And I wanted to make sure you had some background on what this is all about, especially for those that are somewhat newer to council. So the city has been a recipient of Community Development Block Grant funding since 1989. So in that 35-year period, we've received $12.5 million. Not so much per year, but it starts to add up. So $12.5 million over 35 years. The program originated in 1974 when President Ford signed the Housing and Community Development Act. That was an act that consolidated 8 different programs, HUD-related programs that were like other various types of city development programs, blight prevention, those sorts of things, and they consolidated those 8 programs into one entitlement grant that allowed communities to have a little bit more flexibility with those funds, and it also required allowed for more local decision making on how those funds were spent. So HUD is celebrating the 50th anniversary of that act. So in a nutshell, CDBG was created to develop this is HUD language, to develop viable communities by providing decent housing, a suitable living environment, and expanded economic opportunities. So as recipients of these funds, we're required to submit an annual report. It's due 90 days from the completion of the program year, which was June 30, so I've got to submit it by the end of the month. And the CAPER, it's not a terribly lengthy report if you had a chance to look at it, but it simply kind of lays out the expenditures over the last year and the accomplishments. And then it also covers a few other subjects that HUD is interested in how we're thinking about as a city. And I am not advancing my slides. Great, thanks. I think we can go one more. So this slide gives an overview of our expenditures over the last program year. We spent $396,844. Our allocation was $335,881. So we were able to spend roughly $60,000 more than our allocation because we had some unspent funds from 2 or 3 years prior. And part of that had to do with COVID. A lot of communities, along with Holland, many communities, probably nearly all communities, had difficulty spending some of their CDBG dollars during COVID. And that's in large part because home repair programs, supplies were limited, contractors were limited, people didn't necessarily want contractors in their homes. There are a variety of reasons why our main spending program kind of took a dip for a couple of years. But so we still do carry a reserve of about $170,000 going into this current year. But in the table there you can see pretty straightforwardly what we spent in this last year, 68% of the funds going for home repair, and then a variety of other activities and projects, which I will explain in the next slide or two. I'll just note that the item there, public services, and we devote all of our public service dollars generally towards homelessness through 2 different subrecipient agreements. But that is we're only allowed to spend 15% of our allocation in that general category. And then also the other spending limit that applies to this grant is program administration. We're only permitted to spend 20% of our grant in that area. So the next 2 slides just summarize the accomplishments, the programmatic accomplishments for the last year. The first one exclusive to the home repair program. So 42 homeowners were assisted through that program, which is operated on a daily basis by Danielle Weeks in the Community Neighborhood Services Department. You can see the average cost of those 42 projects was $8,388. The CDBG portion, about 61% of that. And the homeowner, with an asterisk, the homeowner plus HomeCore. HomeCore comes, if you look in the bottom right-hand corner of that slide, you see that HomeCore assisted with 12 of those 42 projects, which is, I can't say strongly enough how meaningful that is for those 12 families. Those are 12 projects that might not have happened without HomeCore coming in and kind of filling in some financial gaps. So the table on the left breaks down the households that we're assisting by the 3 different income categories that HUD establishes. The very low income, extremely low income rather, which is less than 30% of the area median. And I can give you some concrete numbers there if you'd like to hear those. About 24% of the households fell into that very low income category of 30 to 50% of area median. And the largest share fell into the 50 to 80% or the general low income category. Served a large number of female-headed households, a large number of elderly-headed households. Not as much racial diversity as I think we would expect to see or in a normal year, although it's not terribly far off given the makeup of the city and the home ownership, the homeowner proportions within those race categories. But there was a reasonable amount of diversity with respect to ethnicity, with 19% of the households being of Hispanic or Latino ethnicity.
Got a quick question.
Sure, yeah.
Can you touch on the dollar amounts for the, I guess the income?
Yep. You want examples of like a 2-person household, 4-person household?
What would constitute a low income? What would constitute a very low income and an extreme low income?
Yep. So I'll use a 2-person household example. So for a 2-person household, that lowest income bracket below 30% of area median would be an income no greater than $24,700. For that very low income, the 30 to 50 range, that would be incomes up to $41,150. And then for the up to 80% of area median, the cap there would be $65,800.
and Mark and council member, just a reminder, I think Quincy remembers this, but just for people listening again, because this can be a complicated thing. You made clear to say, I'm just going to use an example of a 2-member household.
Right.
Can you just explain again that this is actually a grid, so it's a
Yes.
complicated calculation based upon the composition of a household? I kind of did
Yeah,
it just there.
Kind
but
of covered it, but, yeah, it's our grid goes up to 8-member households, and then it goes beyond that if you need to calculate for any additional household members. So, yeah, it's based on household size and, again, where their income falls within that 0 to 30, 30 to 50, 50 to 80.
Do we have an average for those 3 categories by chance for household?
Well, I think from what I know, kind of just generally knowing
Yep,
census
that's-
data, we've got an average household is 3.5 or 3-person household, if that consists of an average.
We have average project cost, but I would caution against trying to say, well, what's the, it's across the board out in our community, if that's what you're asking.
I guess I'm looking for those 3 categories, the ones that we're helping. The
Oh.
average, about.
Average
approximate
income.
Average.
Okay.
No, average household numbers as far as how many people.
Oh, how many, I don't have that data in front of me. It's at my fingertips
Okay.
upstairs, but not in front of me. I mean, we do serve, you can see we serve a lot of single or elderly households, so it's probably gonna skew small. So I'm guessing it's gonna be in that 2.5, 3.5.
Yeah, probably that average. All right, thank you.
Mark, can you can you explain how Home Corps identifies the households they're going to assist?
So when Danielle's working with an individual family and she determines that there's gonna be a challenge meeting their contribution, which I didn't cover that yet, but all of our households are required to contribute. So back to those ranges, if they're in that 50 to 80% of area median, they're gonna contribute somewhere in the range of 50% of the project cost. That next tier up, they're gonna contribute somewhere around 25%, and then for the lowest income households, they're gonna contribute about 10% of the project cost. So regardless of where they fall in that, if that's gonna be a challenge based on their circumstances at the moment, Danielle either encourages them to call Home Corps or calls them herself and asks whether they would be willing to contribute. They're generally very agreeable. I don't know, there was a time when Home Corps kind of focused on kind of the central city region. I believe for our cases, they're willing to expand beyond that. But yeah, it's just a personal connection with Amy Aldering from Home Corps. So I think I was just going to point out just the components that are repaired. And you can see that it's a smattering of things, but roofs show up at the top of that list along with a number of other repairs. But I'll just point out briefly that they're all health and safety or structural related. We don't do anything that's just purely cosmetic. And I'll very briefly just cite 2 examples of customers that we've assisted in this last year. Number 1 was a retired single female who also cares for an adult disabled son. So it was a 2-person household, and we assisted with a roof repair. Another example was a family that recently immigrated here from Afghanistan, stabilized financially quite quickly, able to purchase a home, and they were eligible for the program, and we just assisted with some repairs of some inoperable windows. So just a couple of examples of kind of how the program works. Then on to the other activities that the program supports. I'll just walk through them one by one. The first one is a partnership or a subrecipient agreement we have with Lakeshore Habitat for Humanity, in which all of our money goes strictly to assisting their homeowner partners that are in the process of finalizing their purchase. And we assist with $6,500 in down payment, closing costs, or even buying down the mortgage a little bit, depending on where they most need those $6,500. Not a large number of households assisted there. You see only 3, but we're looking at, if you're familiar with the progress of the 36th Street project, you might be aware that they're kind of moving pretty quickly now towards filling 8 more of those households. So we do fully expect to assist 8 households in this coming year, and we have the funding available to do that. Public services, again, is that category of that we're capped at 15% of our allocation. And for the last, I think we're going on 4 years now, at least 3, we've assisted those 2 agencies that are listed, Community Action House and Good Samaritan Ministries, focusing on outreach services to persons experiencing homelessness and prevention of families that are on the cusp of falling into homelessness. And then lastly, our 4th subrecipient agreement is with the Fair Housing Center of West Michigan. That's another long-term partnership, 10, 12 years at least, where we provide them a little bit of financial support to provide what I think is kind of enhanced education, outreach, enforcement types of activities within the city, and they work very closely with Esther in that regard. And then, as I mentioned earlier, that in addition to expenditures and outcomes, the report kind of asks us to address some of the topics that are listed here, how we're, as a city or as a department, working in some way or another to address the needs of persons experiencing homelessness. In short, we talk about how we're supporting a couple of critical services in the community and a variety of other things kind of at a more administrative level. My involvement with the Lakeshore Housing Alliance. They ask about public housing, to what extent are we involved in public housing, how we're addressing any barriers to affordable housing, how we're addressing persons experiencing poverty, fair housing issues, lead-based paint. So the report touches on each of those subjects in a matter of a couple of questions. Then lastly, I'll just say that, as I said, I think at the very outset that HUD does expect a fair amount of public participation, or at least they expect us to go to seek public participation in both the planning for these program years, but also the submission of this report. So this report was put out for public comment 2 weeks ago. It was available electronically. It was available on the 3rd floor, and then tonight we'll be having a public hearing prior to your vote, should you choose to move in that direction. But all that said, there have been no comments received up until this point. That's what I have prepared. Open to any other questions?
Great. Thank you, Mark. Any other questions for Mark? Yes, Mr. Schulteis.
Yep, Mark, I really appreciate the emphasis on the home repair program. How can the community navigate to see if that program works for them or can help them?
How do they become aware of it? Or
how do they find out more and work towards an application?
Many contractors are aware of it. Home Corps runs across some of these families and is aware of it. It's a lot. I think there's a variety of different touch points. Our neighborhood connector organizations, maybe I haven't done it in the last 6 months, but I regularly promote their promotion of the program in all of their contacts within the neighborhoods. City newsletter, it's in the city newsletter at least twice a year. It's a variety of ways that we try to get the word out. And 211, individuals or agencies that utilize 211 in the event that somebody calls and has a need that they're seeking assistance for, that they would refer them back to the city for this service. So we market as much as we feel like we feasibly can.
Any other questions? Great. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. We do need to do a public hearing on this matter. So at this point, I will open the public hearing for any member of the public who would like to address council in regard to this particular item. Is there anyone here who would like to address council? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. What is the pleasure of council in regard to this item?
Move to approve.
Moved by Byrd. Is there support? Support. Support by Shea. Any discussion? No, you're good. Good. All right, great. Brenda, would you please call the roll?
Okay, Raymond.
Yes.
Corbin.
Yes.
Rowan.
Yes.
Shea.
Yes.
Schulteis.
Yes.
Byrd.
Yes.
And Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you. Next item on the agenda, item number 9, written petitions and communications. In addition to providing the opportunity for the public to be able to speak to us directly during our council meetings, we do also have an email address where you can send comments that will come to all council members, and we review those in between our regular meetings and then accept them into the record during our regular meetings when we receive them. We do not read them out loud at the meetings, but we do accept them into the public record, and we do have an e-comment this evening, so I would entertain a motion from council to accept that into the record.
So moved.
Moved by Raymond. Is there support? Support by Rowan. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, item 13, communications from the city manager at 6:50.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a handful of things. I think they will all be relatively quick. I'm going to suspect that maybe Mayor or others will talk about the MML convention last week, so I'll move past that. I will note other people talked about the International Festival this past weekend, maybe someone else. I spent a good portion of my day out there, and it was a great day, a great event, and enjoyed by, I think, those that were able to attend. And it was a large event, so it was a big success. Thank you again to our Human Relations Director, Esther Fifelski, and her committees that put a lot of work into that. Two things that I want to call out that were on the consent agenda that I think were proper to be on consent agenda, but I just want to highlight. One, a very informative annual report from the Planning Commission. And in particular, I printed out, and I'm going to carry this around with me a lot of different places, because I think we've already had Mark Myers talk to you a few times about housing units and questions about, hey, what is the city doing as it relates to affordable housing? And I thought just a really neat thing that goes back, 5 fiscal years, and all of the residential units that were approved either through the Planning Commission process or our administrative approval process, which is outlined in the zoning ordinance. But then it shows over the past 4 years how many of those units were affordable in different ways. And it was kind of cool to see that in FY 2024, there were 57 units approved, and all 57 of those units were affordable, primarily because of our partnership with Dwelling Place and Jubilee Habitat. So just want to highlight that for you. So if you didn't catch that, because I'm sure you all read and dog-eared everything in the agenda and in that plan, make sure you see this, because I think it's a good piece of information. And then just because I know that she's here and want to give her a congratulations and thank you, you'll see that Brenda worked with Connie. I don't think Connie's back there anymore, but way to go, Brenda. Just identified a grant and got a $30,000 grant to help support our elections. And as you know, this is a kind of a big year in elections, and our staff up there, man, I've been going into that office recently for a variety of things, and I think there's like 3 phones ringing at all times right now. It's very busy over there. So thank you and congratulations, Brenda. And then finally, just this past Monday night was the second iteration of our Ambassador Academy. Week 1, the mayor and I subjected everybody to a 2.5-hour tour on a trolley going around the city. And I think kind of the feedback that people got was, I saw parts of the city I've never seen before, and I didn't even know these parts were in the city. And last night we had a great tour of the police department and operations of the police department led by Chief Messer, supported by a lot of his staff, talking about some of the different programming. So we have 8 weeks yet to go. So every Monday night, and for those in the listening public that maybe is hearing that and thinks that's interesting, sorry you can't join yet, but stay tuned, and I have a pretty strong feeling that we're going to repeat it again next year. And that is all I have, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Van Beek. Next item on the agenda, item 14, appointments and communications from the mayor. I do have one appointment, and I'm going to, and I've got a couple of announcements, but I'm going to defer anything on the International Relations Commission because I know that Councilmember Shea, as a member of the International Relations Commission, may have something to say in that regard. And two other council members joined us at the MML last week, Mr. Byrd and Ms. Rowan, and so I'm going to leave it up to them. I've spoken enough at the meeting. I'm sure they have things to share from that as well. But first, my recommendation for appointments. I'm recommending that the City Council approve the appointment of Gerald Long John Jr. to the Police Community Relations Commission representing Hope College, with a term expiring December 31 of 2024, and the reappointments of Tricia Dreyer to the Holland Historical Trust with a term to be served in perpetuity, subject to the resignation and removal provisions established in the bylaws. So Tricia has to be on that forever, I believe now. So Tricia, if you didn't know that, you are now, for the end of time, going to be appointed to the Holland Historical Trust. And then also Michael Cuellar to the International Relations Commission with a term expiring June 30, 2027. And also the resignation of John Jobson from the Police Community Relations Commission effective September 3, 2024 due to a job position change. And I would be looking for a motion from council in that regard. It is moved by Schulteis. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Raymond. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I just do have one bit of communication. We had visitors here last week. Mayor Marco Out and Francois Kloosterhouse, I was describing while they were here, the Esther of Assen in the Netherlands. The mayor Out and Francois came to visit us. We have been working on a relationship with the city of Assen in the northern part of the Netherlands, the province of Drenthe. For those who don't know, there is a wonderful immigrant statue in Collin Park. We rededicated that statue on Saturday morning, and that was a gift from the people of Assen in the Netherlands to the city of Holland in recognition of our 150th anniversary. Some of the first settlers to Holland came from Drenthe to come here to Holland, and what a lot of people in Holland don't know is there is an identical copy of that same statue, same size, same materials, same artist, everything in Assen. And we refer to it as the immigrants statue here. They refer to it as the emigrants statue in Assen, saying they have a statue of the people who left Assen. We have a statue of the people who came here from Assen. It was a great visit. They were wonderful hosts last October when a delegation from Holland went to visit Assen. It was great to have them here. It's amazing how just a few days together over the course of a year can create bonds of friendship and laughter and great discussion and learning that we share many of the same challenges, the same joys, and the same issues, even though we are half a world apart from one another. So it was wonderful having them here, and we hope to continue that relationship on into the future. And that is all I have this evening. Next item on the agenda, appointments, motions, and communications from council members, and I believe you have something, Mr. Corbett.
It is recommended the city accept the appointment of Julianne Zier-Inskas to the Audit Committee as the City Finance staff member, replacing, as a City Finance staff term expiring, with no term expiring.
And we'd be looking for a motion in that regard.
That's correct.
Moved by Byrd. Is there support? Support by Shea. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Any other appointments, motions, communications from council members? Ms. Rowan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've alluded to the MML convention, the Michigan Municipal League convention that several of us attended last week up on the beautiful Mackinac Island. It really, what an event, what a group. I guess personally I want to thank Keith for being a steward of our city with that group. I think you just wrapped up your service to that on the board for the MML. This was your last appearance there as a board member. But what an organization, what an impressive organization that brings in municipalities from all over the state. There's tons of information, tons of resources to direct cities of various levels of success or struggle or, different issues to find support, to find ideas, to get energized. And they had that cool contest. You can maybe fill in what I'm going to mess up. I'm going to flummox it a little bit. But there were 4 presentations from 4 municipalities around Michigan. And they put their soul into it. There's some artistry to creating these videos, and then they get up there and they present, and then all of the attendees at the conference vote. And the one that won was little tiny Houghton, way up in northern Michigan. And it was, I think what was so stunning about that presentation, about what they did, was it was a bare bones, grassroots, very little money spent, and just gathering the community to create like a dead space, take a dead space and revive it to become a space that was inclusive and opening up a little portion of the city along the waterfront. And it was just, very simple. They removed an ugly structure that was dark and falling apart, and they put in other open things and concrete, and then they asked people to paint murals, and it was a city coming together with just, the pennies in their pocket, buy the paint, make the mural, and find a place to gather. And that's the one that won. But all of the stories were good. That one, I think, deserved to win. That was my vote. But it was great. It was great to have that camaraderie with our colleagues. I'd like to thank our colleagues, Mr. Byrd, Mr. Mayor, Ms. Soul, who is not here tonight, and of course Keith Van Beek, for coming and giving up your time, giving up your jobs for a few days to attend that conference together. I like that we were well represented as a city. It was good to appreciate the stature of our community among our other colleague communities around the state. There's a lot of people looking to see how Holland is doing things, and I think from our colleagues, we're on the right track. Anyhow, thank you all for your time and your effort to, we all kind of split out and went into different breakout groups, which I thought was helpful, and we came back in the evening, had some ideas together, had some camaraderie together. I would encourage us to have more of those experiences as council, but thank you for your time, all of you who attended. And I'm sorry that those who didn't attend, because it was fun too. It was a good group of people in our community and then the community at large. And I want to thank the citizens of Holland for providing us with that opportunity. It wasn't just a party up in Mackinac. It was a really great experience for us. And of course, it's our citizens who help support that effort for us to do the work that we do and get energized for the work that we do, come back with ideas, come back with innovation and good relationships. So those are my 2 cents on it. If anybody else wants to speak to it, I just want to say thank you again for all of your time.
Wonderful, thank you. And I've been making the point to people, while the conference was at the Grand Hotel, we all stayed in much less expensive accommodations on other portions of the island. So for those people who think that we had a wonderful couple of nights staying at the Grand Hotel, no, we had a wonderful couple of nights staying at other places. So thank you for that. And any other appointments, communications from council members? Mr. Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank a whole load of people. This last 2 weeks, we had 2 consecutive weekends of festivals that are not the festival, but they are 2 awesome festivals. We had the City Walls Festival, which was fantastic. We're seeing, it's too bad that Jake and Lexi left, but they put on a great event, and I really encourage anybody outside of East Core to attend next year. It's growing rapidly, and the kind of it's engaging a part of the city that we don't typically use, and it's a really cool area. And watching those artists is awesome. And then, of course, the following weekend was the International Festival, which is rapidly becoming, I think, one of the best festivals in the area. And if you're sleeping on it, show up next year. It's awesome. It's really cool. And Esther Fafelsky and the International Relations Commission puts an incredible amount of time and effort. You know, they were out there. Even I moved a picnic table this weekend, so that's pretty good. A lot of people sweating and having a really good time, and it's beautiful to see different people engaging that typically aren't engaged as much. It's great to see all of our neighbors at these things, so thank you to everybody involved with that.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. Any other communications from council members? Yes, Mr. Byrd.
Yes, I'll just few words touch on MML conference. Mr. Verbeek, thank you very much for leading us in this and leading our community and being a part of that, as Ms. Rowan said. I appreciate that. One of the things that stood out to me there, and you hit on quite a few of those things, but I went to to one of the breakouts. It was thriving communities, something along those lines. And before that, we were it was me, Mr. Verbeek, and the mayor. We were all in a session, and Clarence Anthony, who's the CEO of National Leagues of Cities, made a statement in there, and he said he's been to a lot of cities, and every person in those cities thinks their city is the best city in the country. And some think their best city in the world. And I would, you know how I stand with that. I think we're the best city in the world. So there is no debate, no argument, and I think we take that hands down. One of the things that really stood out in the community breakout session was all the interactions, pulling people into the community in. And as we went through that, the presentation and the talk, he at the end started giving examples of different cities and people you could go talk to. And the very last person who tipped the scale, who had the bar way, way up there, was Holland. Completely blew me away. I was not expecting that. And it was 360 and Jake Norris. And that's evident with the presentation that they got today. So, you know, I always say that we live in a community that's a lot different than other communities. A lot of the people who would think that their communities are the best in the state, the best in the country, strive to accomplish what we have been doing for years and even decades. So kudos to Holland, kudos to the leadership, kudos to Mr. Verbeek and the team that we have here in the city, kudos to all of our citizens, because this is a collaboration. This is something that cannot be done by one person. So again, we live in the greatest city. I wanted to bring to our attention something that I thought was just really, really awesome. I don't think we honor people enough for some of the things that they do that are on purpose, where they're a hero, and some of the things that they do just by being in the right place at the right time, being a hero. I read this in the Holland Sentinel on September 7th, and I'm gonna read it. Holland man rescues 5 from drowning near Lake Ontario. A local man is being hailed a hero after rescuing 5 people from drowning at Balls Beach near Lake Ontario. Brad Hilton of Holland, his wife Liz, and their children were on vacation near Niagara Falls on the lake when they decided to go for a walk on August 17th. According to Liz, As the family walked the beach, they spotted several families swimming, but noticed they appeared to be in distress. They heard someone call for help, prompting Brad to spring into action. I watched him lift 2 small girls and a grown woman out of the water as he took a deep breath and went under himself, Liz said. Brad brought the 3 people to shore before heading back 2 more times to rescue other struggling swimmers. Liz said the danger in the water stemmed from a dramatic sandbar about 20 feet from shore, causing the depth of the water to shift drastically from 3 feet to 10 feet. The families who couldn't swim had no way of knowing there was a sandbar there and no way of knowing the dangers that was beneath their children. Hilton said prior to their walk, Brad had volunteered to stay back and take care of the baby so Liz could spend some time with their other children. At Liz's encouragement, Brad took the tag along. What stuns me about this event is if we hadn't been there, if Brad hadn't been there, 5 people would have been dead. I had no idea how important it would be that he be on the walk with us. Local paramedics, firefighters, and police were dispatched to the scene. All the rescued swimmers survived. I find this story or this action by Brad Hilton to be very inspiring. We never know when a tragic situation or a potential tragic situation is in front of us, and we never really know how we're going to react. Some people freeze up. Some people jump at the call to action, and Brad jumped at the call to action, saving a family. One of the most, it's hard enough to lose a person in your family. When you lose 5 people in your family, I could never, ever imagine that, all at the same time. So kudos to him for being a brave person. He probably would never consider himself a hero, but I applaud him. I applaud you, Brad, and I consider you a hero. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Baird. Mr. Verbeek.
I like having fun. I will tell you though, I can't come, but remember the old radio program where it was, and now you know the rest of the story? So, Mr. Quincy Bird, the rest of that story is actually, you may not all have made the connections, but Liz Hilton has been in front of you all a few times. And in fact, Liz Hilton is an entrepreneur here in our community that started working at Lakeshore Advantage, the Surge Business Incubator, and she actually did, it's called a Swadolini. And that's her. And what's cool is, and we kind of made a big deal out of it because I thought it was really cool when it happened back then, is that business incubated and was successful enough that she actually got a tax abatement from all of you. You voted for it because her business was so successful, and that entrepreneurship that she started right here in Holland allowed her to stay here in Holland, to expand in Holland and put her family roots down even further, and then leads to a story like this. So I thought I'll give you the rest of the story because it's even goes deeper than that, and I think it makes the story even better.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other communications from council members? Seeing none, there's just one more motion I would entertain at this time. We can stay. Moved by Schulteis. Is there support? Support by Rowan. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all.